black male, black female communication, such a critical topic for us to explore. And I wanted to let the audience know that there's no microphone here, so the more that people can turn their cell phones on vibrate and keep any kind of side talking down, it will just help everyone to hear. So we're gonna start off by talking about the theme of this panel and get ourselves started.
All right, so my name is Melvin Cowan. I'm the secondary moderator for today. Now, does everybody have a pen? Oh, I know y'all didn't come to class without a pen. Okay, good. All right, so I want you to go ahead and write this down really quick. It's www. I should hear pin marks all over this place. All right, blacklink, BLACKLINK .ning.com. All right, so Keith Carson's camp, they just unleashed this website on Thursday. So this website is comparable to that of Facebook, right? So you all have met some wonderful people here. And so this website is going to be a way to bridge the gap, to bring everybody together. We represent different industries, being able to bring those resources together for those of us who are looking to be a part of the various industries that we heard about today. This website also helps to bring us together. And Keith Carson, they will also be making sure that they put out information on this website that'll be privy to everybody. And so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna tell you about the mission while you guys are here today, and then I'm gonna pass it off to the panel, give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then Sister Siri, she's going to go off with the questions. So, all right, in this workshop, we will explore black male-female relationships and how we can heal from our collective pain and turn the healing into something that works for the greater good of our community by strengthening ourselves and families. So here's some stats for you. 73% of black children are born outside of marriage. 55% of black women have never been married, followed by US-born Hispanics, which are 49%, Asians, 39%, and white women, 34%. 29% of black women and 12% of black men reported at least one instance of violence from an intimate partner in a 1996 survey. 14% of black youth versus 7% of white youth reported that a boyfriend or girlfriend had hit, slapped, or physically hurt them on purpose. In the last year, boys, 13.7%, and girls, 14%, were almost equally likely to report being a victim of dating violence. So, to my left, we have our wonderful panel, and I'm going to start out with Sister Nedra Ginwright? Ginwright, I'm sorry. And so just introduce your name, who you're affiliated with, and just a little bit about your background, and pass it on down.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Nedra Ginwright, and I have been invited. I'm happy to be here as a result of being invited to this panel, talk about relationships. I have been married for 18 years now, and been with my partner, known him for about 22 years. And so I guess I have a little bit of experience to talk about relationships. In terms of my affiliation, I've done a lot of community and youth work. One of the organizations that I work with or helped to start is called Leadership Excellence. So those folks are familiar with it. The Leadership Excellence is one of the organizations that I'm affiliated with. In addition to that, I do consulting around Black and Brown youth development.
Hi, my name is Nana Kofiti. I own a company called 510 Media. It's a marketing design firm, and we're in the business of historically studying patterns and cycles. And also, I've been African-centered for 20-some years. So we extensively study human behavior, especially the Black community behavior. This gives us the opportunity to look at possible future opportunities, watch trends, and help companies and individuals align themselves to take advantage of that.
Hi everyone, I'm Pastor Maria Reeves. I pastor along with my husband, Brandon Reeves, at the Center of Hope Community Church in Oakland. We've been married for a total of 20 years this upcoming August, and we have 3 beautiful children, all 3 are girls. Some of the things that we do, a lot of couples retreat, couple sessions, working with, we do counseling with with couples. We do weddings. And so basically we've been doing it for a while, since we came into being pastors, probably about almost 10 years ago. So some of the things that I do outside of the couples is I work a lot with women, I work a lot with hurting women. I continued on from my mother-in-law, Bishop Reams. We have an organization called EC Reams Community Services, where we do women's conferences. We just had one today at our church. We probably had about 450 women who were there this morning, and we deal with issues that women go through.
I'm Pastor Brandon Reams, and we have a wonderful group at our church called Point Man. And this is where I work with men. Every second Sunday is called Point Man class. I'm blessed to have one of our Point Men in the audience, Brother Khalil. We appreciate you being here today. But it's a wonderful organization that I've started just a year ago, and it's built within our ministry, but it's men learning how to communicate, not only as men in our relationships, but just communicating on the job, and just men really learning how to work with our partner, work in a relationship, and just basic skills. And so, you know, even though we pastor our church, we have some very, very powerful ministries within the church that are empowering women, empowering men, and blessing families.
Thank you. So everybody, please give it up for our panel. All right, now as I pass the torch to Sister Dr. Siri Brown, could you all please take your cell phones? Oh, okay, so we have a new arrival. But please take your cell phones and put them on mute. You don't have to turn them off, but I just don't want it to be a distraction for our panel. And we have a new panelist. We would like for you to introduce yourself, like really quick, briefly, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Real quick, my name is Ken Maxey. I'm no expert in relationships per se, but I would just say that I think all of us have the experience of life and knowing that one of the more important things today is how do we get the male and female to work hand in hand closer in a generation of which right now I think it's not as much working together. And I think that I bring something in regards to that experience, and I hope this panel will all work together and find some solutions to a problem.
Okay, Mr. Maxey, thank you for joining us. And I had told the audience that we don't have a microphone.
Oh.
So in order for everyone to hear, we'll have to kind of speak real loudly. Okay. All right, so audience, thank you all for coming. What a critical question that we're asking and dialoguing here about the issue of communication. When it comes to relationships, communicating effectively is very difficult. Have you ever said one thing and your partner takes it in another way and gets all mad and you were trying to be nice? Have you ever said something you didn't want to say? You know, you just really were so angry you just said something you really didn't mean and you hurt someone's feelings and then had to go around and apologize later. Has anybody ever done that? Yes. Right. So some people, not some people, but all of us then can relate to how difficult it is to communicate in any relationship, to really be understood and to really hear. So the first question for the panel is, how do you see the current state of communication between black men and black women? And we'll start with Sister Reams, because the pastor, yeah.
Okay. How do I see the current
Nice
state?
loudly.
What I see between communication between black men and women, I do feel that we need some work. And it's not just one-sided, it's not just the female, and it's not just the male. It's the both of us in understanding one another. No one is the same. No marriage is the same. No relationship is the same. So one of the things I see is, ladies, we have to stop comparing our relationships and our marriages with other marriages or other relationships, because it's not the same. Your partner is different, or male, your partner is different. So you treat them as different, as they are special, okay? They have special qualities inside of themselves. So we ought to encourage them, male, female, encourage them. Whatever they have inside of them, encourage the gifts that they have inside of them. Everybody doesn't work for PG&E. Everybody's not a professor. Everybody's not everybody's not a student or everybody's not a lawyer, but there's some good garbage men out there. There's some good people, good gardeners, landscapers. We ought to encourage what's inside of them and bring that out of them.
Thank you. Anyone else on the panel like to address the question of how do you see the current state of communication between black men and black women?
On the other flip side, though, I think it's equally important for black men to realize that, yes, proportionately, black women are more educated, right? They're going to college more. They have better jobs, typically, because we have so many young black men that are going through changes. And I think sometimes it is a mental thing for black men to say, we're not going to be able to date somebody that makes more money than I, or that has a better job than I. And so we have to look at those issues as a community and say, look, this is not a problem. Actually, it's a good thing. We can make this work. And so I know this is going to spark a lot of conversation right now, but I really do believe that this is something that we have to look to as a community and say, why can't we get along and say, even with the nuance of the way of the black community, black women maybe proportionally making more money than black men, that we can't have a really good relationship or have friends that are in that situation. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Well, when I first heard the subject, I realized it's kind of complex because when you talk about black male and female relationship, if you take things out of the context of history, you really can't understand where and why we are here today. And I'm not going to go into the effects of slavery, which is obvious. I'm not going to face Jim Crowism or post-crack, because crack changed the black community overnight. But also one thing I think that I'm going to tap into that I think a lot of people don't think about is the effects of the post-civil rights movement. In 65, civil rights came to an end. However, it became a big business afterwards because they realized that if I can mobilize these people for different issues, different causes, or whatever, there's money to be made. So eventually what happened was people started to play on our emotions as black people. And to a point that they would mobilize us on our emotions. It got to a point that anger became a response to things we disagreed with. Well, the problem with that is that you see that also in child rearing. We have a lot of anger in our community. And that anger destroys communication. Because at the end of the day, and if you see it in our child rearing, our first introduction to love is through our parents. And if I spank you because I love you, if I holler at you because I love you, it's not a surprise when I become an adult, when I fall in love with that person, I holler and I push and I hit. Because that idea, that philosophy was introduced to us at an early age.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good point.
I just wanted to add, when I read the question also, how do we see the current state of communication between black men and women, what came to me is that communication in general between men and women is challenging. And in black community, it just adds layers. When we talk about racism, when we talk about the influx of coke and crack cocaine, when we talk about incarceration rates and murder and economics, it just adds layers. And so for us, it becomes even much more paramount for us to deal with how we can heal from the wounds that have happened because we have so many layers of wounds. So when you deal with communication that's already challenging, for us, what it looks like is we have to go back to our core, go back to our essence, and look at who we were created to be. We have an essence that's been wounded, and for us, we have to really address this through a place of healing and being able to be in a place of being vulnerable, being able to be in a place where we're open and willing to say that I'm human and I make mistakes. And for me, in my relationship, that's where it's taken a long time to grow to that point. It's not been an easy road because our first inclination was to protect the South and protect all those and keep all those wounds from showing. And so on a broader scale, I'm sure that that's kind of what happens on a larger scale, that we're all trying to kind of protect our egos. And so when we can get back to our essence through the process of healing, it'll allow us to be in relationship a lot differently.
Okay, thank you. Pastor Reams, would you like to address the first question, which is how do you see the current state of communication in black men and black women?
How do I see the, well, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, what's your understanding of the current state of communication between black men and black women?
I think it's somewhat, we're at a point right now where it can be very, very difficult when you look at the economic challenges, when you look at the educational challenges and different things that we are facing. It can be difficult, but at the same time, and as a clergy person and really as a minister, I've learned that a lot of our communication skills and a lot of the things we might be dealing with, a lot of it starts with the family. It starts at home. And so I believe it's very, very important that we begin to work on the foundation. Right now, it can be somewhat strange because you have different perspectives when it comes to communication and also different levels of education. But I've learned that when you really have a solid foundation as a family, you can work through those communicational problems.
All right, thank you. We wanted to open it up to maybe 2 or 3 people in the audience, because this is a panel, but it's also a dialogue. Does anyone in the audience want to share their ideas of what's the current state of black male-female communication? It comes down to communication often, so, brothers.
Yes, I'll be very quick. I'm, as Mrs. said, I'm a religious man. Everybody doesn't embrace that. This is just something that will help. It's obvious that you can't do it alone. And I just make a real plan. If you try that spiritual part, that's the side, it will help. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
You can't do it.
Without the spiritual
Yes, you can.
foundation
That's right.
and spiritual support,
You try that.
it's not effective. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I think I saw your hand, and then we'll get a sister to balance it. Go ahead.
Everybody in here has feelings and emotions. And I noticed a lot of young people in here today. I see a few of them going to sleep already before we got started too good. And that's usually because adults talk about things not on the deepest level, like on the real level of feeling and emotions that you're going through right now. And a whole lot of today's relationships have to do with how well we are respected for having feelings at your ages. A lot of the stuff that we're going through as adults today started when we were young people your ages, and we had feelings and emotions, and we might have not been encouraged to own those feelings and emotions. So we don't respect, our culture hasn't historically respected feelings, emotions, and that word that you said over there, vulnerability.
Yeah.
That's a scary, scary word that you have to help people understand. Because we always talk about how we need to be more vulnerable, which means more open. But what happens when you're on the schoolyard and you look different and you don't have a good defense? People beat you down. Being vulnerable usually means you get hurt. Most of our protections as adults come from when we were hurt as kids. And we never get over that stuff.
Okay.
And a lot of our views about women, they have to do with our mothers, and they have to do with the people that were in our lives, and how we learn to look at girls nowadays with the music that's out here. That's a whole nother conversation.
Okay, so we got a lot of things on the table. Thank you, brother. To the sister, yes.
Mine is more of a question, because somebody first got to broach the question of whether or not we can take our relationships out of the context of slavery, seeing as to how we are still very much embedded in post-traumatic slavery syndrome, at least I believe. So is it possible to sort of negate that historical perspective, because I believe it permeates so much of our communication, because it permeates so much of our identity as a singular person, a community person, a member of a culture. So my question is whether or not these relationships can sort of shake off
So she's posing the question back to the few people on the panel, if you want to, about can we just disregard, you know, what has happened to us in slavery in the Ma'afa and the impact of that as a starting point, maybe for healing?
Okay. You can evolve, but in order to evolve, you have to understand. You can't, to ignore makes you an automatic victim. So you have to, you know, the other day, I often challenge people about the effects of slavery. And I said, okay, is there an air that we breathe that we pass down slavery? Is there some white guy on our block that's programmed in slavery on that block? Or is it there innocent patterns that we have in our family that maintains the values of slavery? At some point, we have to question everything we believe in. There's concepts and philosophies I hear every day. Some on the panel said women make more money than men. Actually, statistics say that men make more money. People believe that there's more black men in prison than there is in school. There's actually more black men in school than there is prison. Black men, there's a lot of philosophies and things that we believe in our community that we've grown to believe because they sound good, they feel good, there's a lot of energy behind them. You know, you even hear community, you need to whoop your kids. I challenge black folks all the time. I say, give me one scientific reason that psychologically you can enhance your child's ability to perform behind spanking. And you hear the emotions, but you don't hear the critical thought. So you have to understand the effects of slavery, the effects of history. A lot of people feel like history starts the day they were born. And so once you understand those patterns, then you can have healthy infrastructure, where the pastor was saying, where you can start to build a stronger family to weather the storm. Because at the end of the day, yes, the family matters the most, but you have to be aware of what the weather forecast is.
That's right. Very good.
All right, we're gonna move on to question 2, but it's all related. Each question builds upon each other.
All right, panel. How do we get to the root causes of the communication crisis between black men and black women? And we'll start with Brother Kofi on this.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, I got you. How do we get to the root causes of the communication crisis between black men and women?
You know, I'm a lover of history, lover of research. However, I like to put stuff on the ground where the chickens can get at it. And I like to give people solutions and tools they can use today and implement tomorrow and begin the process of change. And I've come to understand is that we're gonna have to re-examine the way we work with our children. We're gonna have to tell us children, we're gonna start looking at, you know, as black people, we're quick to sit down, shut up, and stay in the child's place. We need to start talking to our children. We need to start practicing more love with our children. We need to protect our little girls from being molested and raped. That shuts down communication. We gotta stop teaching children that anytime you do something I don't like, the response should be physical punishment. We gotta work on prepping children to be healthy in male and female relationships.
I believe also it has a lot to do with respecting and learning respect. And it's so unfortunate that in our music and even young children that I see, we have a school, and I'm looking at first graders and second graders, and they're walking around saying things, saying words that they heard in a rap or heard in a song. So it starts with disrespect at a very early age. It's you know, when you know how to respect a female, if that female can respect you, you can have open lines of communication. But when there's no respect, then how do you expect to have a good communication?
I believe also there has to be some healing among yourselves. If you're hurting, get you some help. I don't believe in taking that hurt, and I'm hurting, and I'm angry, and I'm frustrated. There's too much out here. You can get free help these days. Alameda County Behavior Health is who we deal with, and it's free of charge. You know, mental illness used to be taboo, but everybody got some mental illness these days. Depression, everybody got depression, oppression. Eat too much. You don't eat enough. You don't sleep enough. That's all mental illness. Get some help, because if you don't, it passes along to your children. It passes along in your relationship. There's too much out there. Let's not make excuses as a culture. Well, I can't do this because the white man did. No. You can get you some help, get healed, healed, get delivered, get set free, and move on. You get you some help, you can get you some teaching. Educate yourself. Don't educate yourself by looking at TV. Get you some books. Get you some books. There's so much stuff out there. I can give you some healing books on, how to get healed from the mind. Joyce Meyer, Battlefield of the Mind. We all have a battlefield of the mind. Oh, I remember when I was in the war. Hey, you were in the war years ago. Come on now, get healed, get delivered, and let's move on. Okay.
I just add to that. Thank you. I think that's the core. Get back to that essence of who we are. Just want to say, it goes back to this word about vulnerability and just knowing that being in this world, we're going to be subjected to harm. And I think there's a lot of times that we go along and think we just have to step in and deal with it, or somebody else has been able to get through this pain, and why can't we get through this pain, and we don't allow ourselves to say that something hurt. And I definitely subscribe to the historical impacts of pain that have been passed down generationally. Ancestral pain is real, and there's even evidence to show that our DNA gets shifted as a result of harm and pain, and it has to be dealt with. And so us being able to say that we hurt is not a sign of weakness, but it's more of a sign of strength. A sign of weakness is putting on the armor and the code and acting like hurt don't hurt, but it hurts. And hurt people, as we know, hurt people. And so until we hurt people, hurt people. Hurt people, hurt people. And if, I mentioned the layers of hurt that we as people of color have had, if we don't have a space to deal with that level of pain, we're going to continue to hurt one another. And so we hear all the time, put on your mask when you're on an airplane, put on your mask first before you put on somebody else's. So the core of this is deal with self first. You can't deal with nobody else's pain until we deal with our own. And everybody has some place in this world that we've had some sort of harm done to us.
And I would just add, I'm the son of two parents that have been together now for 38 years. And they're amazing parents, but they came from a generation where there was faith at the core of the relationship. And there was a village that took care of those relationships and those couples and those children in those communities. We, the new generation in particular, the next generation, don't have that aspect. And so the idea of faith in the new generation, where is it? And how do we reconnect them to faith? The number two part is the village, the community, getting mentorship, reaching out to people. These young people hear the music and then they believe that music because there's no support caste systems that are there, or they don't know about the support caste systems. So in relationships, I don't care if you're black, white, purple, right now is one of the most critical times in history in regards to the relationship between man and woman and whoever you love in this world. And how are you going to treat those people? And if we don't go back to the core issues of relationships through faith, relationships through friends and family and those kind of things, and we're left out there vulnerable and individuals, they will be unsuccessful relationships down the road. So, that's right.
Thank you. And so I have a follow-up question. Oh yeah, give it up. Okay, so here's my follow-up piece to the panel. So when we talk about crises, like we see the problem, and then we start to develop solutions, right? We have these solutions, but oftentimes the solutions are just thought, right? How do we make some of the solutions that you all have highlighted, like addressing mental health in the community? How do we rebuild or instill respect, or being able to express vulnerability, being able to teach these things, to be able to teach Black history, right, in our young people? So what are some practical methods that folks could use right now to even start that process? And anybody can take this.
Well, I like the internet. I really do. I mean, that's probably one of the best things that happen. But we have to educate. Stop depending on other people to educate us if you can't get the information. Now the information is out there. Many times you can educate yourself. You can go online and you can find resources. I found last year we had something at our church where Alameda County Behavior Health came, and I didn't know all the resources that they offer were free. So a lot of times faith-based organizations, they have it out there, and what they do is they get funding for you to get the information or the services for free, So one of the things we as people, we have to network among one another also. We have to kind of talk and share the information. This is what other coaches do, share the information and share what's out there. Sharing the information, educating one another about what's out. You looking for a job? Let me help you, let me help you. So-and-so is hiring. We have to, it's not all about you. We have to share information among one another about what's out there. Because many times what you think that might be a problem, might be a mountain, oh, you gotta have this and you gotta have that, and in order for you to qualify, a lot of times it's not, because it's who you know. So it's about relationships also, connecting like today.
Okay. And this is excellent. So you know how we were talking earlier about the blacklink.ning.com, right? This is the way how we bridge the gap and we bring everybody together. She's absolutely right about that. Thank you. Anybody else?
Also, it's many of your churches around, and I pray, those of you, attend churches, or as Pastor Maria was sharing, not just churches, but a lot of nonprofits have things. But I've also learned that most couples don't have a couple mentoring them. You need some senior couple who can speak into your life, help mentor you, and it goes back to honesty. And a lot of times, it hurts me because a lot of times our African-American males have a real problem with going in, talking to somebody, and getting that stuff on the table. As Pastor Maria shared, get you some help. Be willing to, it doesn't make you small or insignificant. No, it blesses your life when you many times take your problem into another setting and begin to share with somebody else so you can start working on the problem. There's a hand in there also, sir.
Okay, I'll get to the questions here in a second.
I want to build on, I agree with everything you just said. I think part of the civil rights issue and the motions, two things to know, we have to, in which places of vulnerability, we have to bring that anger down to have those conversations. So if you say something that's a buzzword to me, I can't just block out, get angry, and think that's the way to respond. And we have to practice the art of listening. Listening is not waiting for your opportunity to speak, but listening is understanding the other person's position, taking time to realize that maybe they're different, maybe they're going through something, maybe they have a need that you don't relate to, and you won't develop that understanding until you practice the art of listening. So when you are going through that counseling, when you are forming these groups to have a dialogue, because you have to form groups, instead of getting together and just talking about sports, or getting together and talking about Real House of whatever, Hollywood, or Real Wives, or whatever, get together and talk about raising children, get together about relationships, and have deep conversations about that, but be prepared to listen and be prepared to be vulnerable.
So I would say, in terms of solutions, for me, it's really been about self-reflection, self-exploration. And so one practice that I've been committed to is each morning I get up and ask myself what I'm grateful for, some gratitude. What am I grateful for? And I also set my intention for that day. And while those are not necessarily practices that are bringing me or supporting my relationship with others, it's supporting my relationship with self and having me have a better appreciation for others. The other thing that I also do is look at forgiveness. It's a major piece, forgiveness. In figuring out who have I harmed and who has harmed me and how I need to forgive myself for that and how I need to forgive others for that. And just honestly, it's a process. I'm not, I have some experience in a marriage relationship, but it's no way perfect. And I just recognize it being a process. And so just being open to being a process, I think is for me the greatest thing that I can offer myself. Is just to be in process of knowing myself and be in the process of appreciating and being grateful for what I am and who I have in my life, myself. So gratitude, forgiveness, and set my intention for the day.
I would say at a place of educational learning as we are today at Laney College, research, study. I think one of the things that we forget is we just go to the internet sometimes and we just say, oh, the answers are all there, right? It's all there, but it's not. You got to talk to somebody. You got to sit down in front of somebody. FaceTime. What is it on Apple? The iPhone is called FaceTime, I think, right? And shoot, you can even do it on your phone nowadays. Have that conversation. Because quite frankly, sisters and brothers, most folks today that are growing up, they talk through text.
That's right.
And that's an unfortunate truth of the matter.
That's right.
Because relationships today are not going to be sustainable long term if in fact we're talking through texting. Emotions aren't even explained through texting.
That's right.
You can figure a word to be what it is, but not what they intended to mean through a text. And so the idea of love, the idea of relationships, the idea of friendships between man and women or whoever you choose to love is actually based on just core issues of just doing some of the things that you would want somebody to do unto you. Core faith issues, right? Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Don't text if you really want to know about somebody. Call them up, meet up for coffee, have some burritos, whatever you want to do, right? But don't just text. That was just me.
Thank you. And we have a couple of questions that are in the back. So I have 1, 2, and you'll finish out with 3. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to reiterate some things you said in there about education and mentorship. I'm a correction officer for Alameda County, and I work with domestic violence, the batteries. And they have to go to what's called batteries treatment. And when I have a conversation with the defendants, you know, one of the things they learn in there is about how to even talk to, you know, their partner. You know, what to do when they're angry. You know, and so these were things that I've heard time and time again. I never even knew even think like this. So it's like we're missing a piece here. You know, where I don't know when I've ever used trigonometry, but I would, you know, valuable learning personal, how to do a personal relationship is something that you're going to need every day. You know, so I think that that's a part where either the community, the churches, the schools, community centers, that's something that we can start with these young kids right here, how to communicate with one another and with the opposite sex. If you don't have any models at home, you know, then or a core model at home, you're just going to replicate that. And that's a lot of stuff that I heard in talking to the people that I supervise about their relationships with their partners and how it got to the point where it became physically violent. Now they caught a case and now they sent across the death for me. And a lot of it was that there was no mentorship, there was no education, and that's the piece that I think that we're missing in the community and that we need to devise, not starting as adults when they caught a case, but when they're kids. And then they'll know how to treat each other. And that's what I want to say.
Thank you very much. Okay, second question.
Okay, and I wanted to say kudos for your organization and keep Carson doing this because this is very much needed. And I know budgetary issues are a problem, but they need to occur on a more frequent and more regular basis. I know this is the second one and it is excellent. If there is some way we can do them more regularly, because what is needed in our community is constant, ongoing, face-to-face dialogue. And this, I have about 9 points and I'm gonna make real quick. I'm not gonna
Okay. Look, I'm timing you. I'm timing you.
I'm just gonna list them for food for thought. Number 1, I already said we need face-to-face support groups on a regular basis. Number 2, you must be aware of mass communications, the cell phone, the texting. Everything you do on mass communications is monitored. If you delete it 5 years from now, if you end up in court, that message will come up. You need to wean yourself from all of these mass communications. It is being monitored. It is being controlled. You can never get rid of that record. Facebook and all of that.
Can you pick like the next 2 that are like the most
Okay,
important?
all right. All of the other major cultural groups, the Chinese cultural groups, the Jewish cultural groups, the Italian cultural groups have their secret meetings. And it's not on the internet. It will not be televised. We need to think about face-to-face small groups, because if you rely on this mass internet thing to do your most secret talks or whatever, you're not alone in that conversation. Okay, and if, you need to know that we need our own meeting place that is not a public meeting place. By the way, Liberty Hall, which is a historical landmark, which is where the UNIA, United Negro Improvement Association, that Marcus Garvey started, is on the chopping block.
That's right.
Because our community is not standing up for our landmarks. And Citigroup, who has been in a suit, a $45 billion suit, is now holding that landmark hostage until we come up with $569,000. And so I think that if we are astute and together as a community, $1 can get a nonprofit, a building, a piece of real estate. So we need to be a little bit smarter about what we do. And if the Liberty Hall goes on the chopping block and our history goes down the tube, shame on us. And so, last thing I'm gonna say.
Well, I gotta cut you off here, but thank you very much,
Wait,
sir.
let me just say this last thing. Everybody in this room should read Message to the People. You're talking about relationships.
Yeah.
Message to the People. That is the UNIA's 25 lessons that were only given verbally because it was not to be written down, but his last dying wish, Marcus Garvey, was that it should be recorded so it could be shared with all the people. Message to the People by Tony Martin, who is the dedicated historian of Marcus Garvey. If our community only read that, that's all you need to do.
And thank you very much. And so as I pass the torch to the last person for the questions, for folks that have questions or statements, like, try to keep it as brief as humanly possible because we still have content that we need to be able to get through. And others may have important things to say as well. And so we want to make sure that folks are heard, but we want to make sure that everybody's getting the information that they need, right? So you're the last question.
Okay, what I want to say is I want to address something that this young man over here on the end said. You talk about spanking. I think people confuse discipline with abuse. The Bible says, spare the rod and you spoil the child. And we ought to train up children in the way that they should go. And anybody go to a gym know that training is hard. I would say that it's very simple. God first, family, and then community. And then what do we have to do? We have to be intentional about raising good and healthy families. To build a strong family takes time, it takes work, it takes effort. We talk about social media and all this. Our mothers, our women training up girls in the way that they should go. Our fathers, our uncles training up boys in the way that they should go. You have to think about what it is that we are doing. The young must train up the old. And until we get to that, we have nothing. We heard about post-traumatic slave syndrome. This girl is talking about a book. We have some things, but we still can keep our family intact if we know what to do by raising our families. That's what we must do. I have 3 kids. I raised them. I'm still talking to them at 22, 18, at 29, being intentional. Now, when we talk about communication, this is my last point. People have to understand that are you dealing with your mind, which is where delusion comes from, or are you dealing with the heart? You got to get to the heart of the matter. In the Bible, the heart is mentioned 4 times as much than the mind. It comes down to God, family, and community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna keep moving on, and for the sake of time, and it's difficult to moderate because this is one of those issues that really, we need to be sequestering ourselves for about a month at a time to really get to the root of it. So hopefully people will be patient with the fact that, that we have a format. But I wanted to get back to the issue of anger that was brought up by the panel and how to effectively deal with anger. Because it was mentioned earlier that being Black Americans, being Africans here in America, that we deal with so much frustration around employment, so much frustration and anger around police brutality, so much frustration with what's happening to our homes and inside our homes, and the battles that we fight every day inside the institutions of America that were not designed for us to be healthy. And so I'm wondering, how is it that, given the context that we're in, being black in America, how is it that we can deal with the frustrations of that when we enter into our homes and communicate and strive to love and take care of each other? Do you understand some practical ways? How do we deal with that? Anyone on the panel?
You know, when I was a young man, I remember being very frustrated when I first became African Center, and I kept my fists up in the air, wore dashikis every day, and was telling everybody how they were wrong and how they needed to change their lives and how I was going to the promised land of consciousness. And as I got older, I realized that my lack of knowledge made me frustrated. And my complacency in what I was doing in my own life made me frustrated. As you develop your knowledge, you have to also improve your actions and change. And you got to remember that, and this is going to come full circle, and as you improve your actions and change, you start realizing that change is working with people. It's not working with machines or buildings or blocks. You're working with people. And when you work with people, you'll learn to see value in people, and you'll learn to realize that you can't move everybody because of your belief. And you got to realize that everybody that you're talking to has some type of brilliance. And you have to, as you develop your knowledge and wisdom, you learn to tame that beast inside yourself, because you realize that your anger is misplaced. And so what you start to do is you start to bring your emotions under control, because you realize that you're not solving a problem, all you're doing is attacking your people. So if you're not working on developing yourself and you are not doing anything, then taming that beast is close to impossible. But in order to tame that beast, you're going to have to grow your mind, and you have to change your actions. You can't come home, watch TV, wake up on the weekends, and go back to work and have no plans in your life, and then you're going to change your emotions, the way you end up with your family, your kids. Even, and I'm going to say this, because I heard religion. When I was younger, I was taken to be a minister, and I'm not in church on purpose. But I respect the Bible more than any book you can even imagine. And what I found for a lot of us as people, there ain't nothing wrong with the Bible, but it's wrong the way we approach the Bible sometimes. Sometimes we project our issues on the Bible as opposed to hearing what the Bible is trying to tell you. And in order for you to really observe that message, you got to grow as a person, and then that message can get through.
Anyone else want to address the issue of practical means? Practical means. Just some practical means for how we are in a hostile environment oftentimes, in our communities, in our workplaces, in our schools, how we can deal with the anger we may feel about that and not take it into our relationships.
I agree with that. We do have to work on ourselves, and I'm just kind of from my background, being married 20 years, it wasn't a piece of cake. It wasn't a piece of cake, and I didn't go to someone who was single, who's never been married, and I didn't ask them for their advice when we had problems.
Good.
This is key. I didn't do that. I went to my mother-in-law, Bishop Green, who had been married, who was married, and a woman of faith. I would ask her, what do you think? Can you pray with me? And everybody didn't know my business. So number one, when you having a problem, get with someone with some wisdom, who's wise, that can tell you and lead you. Never let the blind lead the blind.
That's right.
You don't know something and you're allowing somebody to lead you who doesn't know it. That's not going to work. Get you somebody older who can tell you, baby, I've been down that road. Don't do it that way. Do it this way. It'll pay off in the future. It will pay off in the future. And so that's what I did. Number one, find somebody with some wisdom, whether it's grandparents, whether it's someone in the church, or whether it's a professor, an older person that you can kind of talk to and share your frustrations and share your feelings with. Mentor. Everybody in here should have some type of mentor.
That's right.
Have a mentor, someone you can look up to, someone you can talk to, someone you can call. They can take you out. I'm not trying to take your money mentoring, but I'm somebody you can call or take out to Starbucks and let's have some coffee, because I need to find out. That's how I'm not just a pastor or into ministry. I graduated, I have an MBA. I went back to college because I had a mentor who encouraged me, who coached me. They were like my coach and said, you can do that. Even though a lot of times I was the only African American in my class. And woman. But they couldn't, when I wanted to give up and cry, I called a mentor, help me, you know, I don't know what to do. So those type of the mentor, and then your faith. What does the Bible say? The Bible says, be angry and sin not. So before I go to bed, I'm going to say, Lord, forgive me. I'm going to get rid of this. Learn some scriptures. You know, I need you to help me with this. Because it's not worth it being angry and taking your anger out on somebody else. And then you're going to have to pay for that for life. And you're going to have to go to prison over just a bad decision that you made that night because you were angry.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Jim Wright.
So in terms of my own personal relationship with my husband, one of the things that has helped our relationship is really for each of us to know what our triggers are. I was talking a lot, or we've all been talking a lot earlier about past hurts and pains. And though we have them, we don't always know that when somebody says something or does something to us, it taps into that particular space of pain or hurt. And so really being clear that just because he didn't make up the bed or whatever it is, just because he didn't do something, I may have some anger about that, but that anger is not really at him, it's really at some past hurt or some past pain or even just stress. I just had a bad day, and so I'm taking it out on him. And it happens. I mean, it just happens. I'm not at all going to say that 100% of the time in my relationship, when I'm angered or stressed, that I don't lash out. Because I do. I got it in me. And I do the neck roll and the eye roll and I stop talking and I do all that. But that doesn't happen all the time. I have done some self-work so that when I'm triggered, I'm able to respond in a different way or not respond. And so that's the other thing, that practical thing, I take time for myself. I will take a shower, go take a bath, pick up a book, listen to some music, just do something to have that little mini kind of escape or that mini little time to self. The other thing that's really supported in my relationship is we were friends first, and so that's really crucial, just to be friends. And we have a shared community, we have a shared vision. And a lot of our vision is around kind of community work and service, and it's shared. And so we're walking down the same path. And so that has really been supportive when it comes to stressful situations, when you have somebody that also understands that particular stressful situation. And then lastly, we have a lot of fun. I like to go out and party. We both like to go out and party, have activities that we do, and just have fun. Let it be bowling, let it be listening to old school music and having a party, inviting folks over, just kicking it. Love to have fun and love to have a lot of humor in our relationship. So that's what has sustained us, and that's what kind of keeps me going and not looking at this person that I've been with for 20 plus years and be like, I'm tired of looking at you. Just trying to keep it fresh and have fun.
Thank you.
And he's never tired of me. So.
That works well. That works well.
It's confidence.
Anyone else on this issue of anger and how to deal with it? Is it ever a good time? Is it ever good to have a conversation when you're angry with your partner? Well, the audience already answered for us. But this seems to be something that people do a lot. They're angry and they're frustrated and they start yelling, and it turns to violence. It just, what happens when you're angry and you communicate? Is it okay if I say I'm just too angry right now? Can we? This is an important conversation. Can we have it later? What should you do when you're angry?
Well, no, personally, she's absolutely right. There's a time you need to know when to be quiet, when to shut it down. But also, as Maria shared, that mentor also is to hold you accountable. Also, a lot of times I think we want to be able to hold people accountable, but who's holding us accountable? But especially during that time of anger, and this also goes back to self-discipline, knowing that there is a right time and a wrong time to talk. And also, you should know your partner. I believe she used the word triggering. You should know when you're pushing somebody's buttons. You should know that. You know certain words set that person off. Well, don't do that. Don't go there. Don't take them there. But the bottom line is, personally, you need to know when to be quiet, when to shut it down, and then at the right time, then you have that conversation.
I want to say something that we haven't talked about, and it's something that we know this is something we all know is real. You can't use anger to let you know that person loves you or not. You can't attack a person to see if you get a response from them to make sure that they love you. And so if that's the issue is not your partner, the issue is probably you. And number two, you have to learn to the reason you have to practice silencing yourself sometimes, because you have to take time to try to figure out where that person's coming from and look for the positive solution. It is very rare that you and your partner will get in an argument and they're mean-spirited and they're trying to do you harm. Right. But it's usually they have some concern of theirs, you have some concern of yours, and it's just not connected. So don't play on this anger game to figure out if you love each other, because in the end, you're causing so much damage in a relationship, you start causing so much damage to the party, it gets hard to repair. So the anger game can get really out of context at times.
Thank you. Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I was just gonna comment, it's not good for me in my relationship, it's not good to engage in argument or to try to have something out when you're angry. But as I mentioned, I've done it before, do it all the time, try not to do it. But I think the important part about it for me is when I do it, when I do the neck rolling and the yelling or whatever at my husband, and it ain't right. But the important part is that I'm able to go back and apologize and to admit where I made a mistake. And I know it, I know I shouldn't be engaged in this, and I'm not perfect, and I'm in a process. But it happens, and I think for me, it's important to just allow myself space to be human and to know that I'm going to make that mistake, and once I do, to make sure I correct that mistake.